I'm Daniel and welcome to the Jet Fuel Only channel. Sometimes it's worth it to get up early in the morning, especially when you're driving this. I hope you're here because you already saw my exterior walk around and technical review of my 2021 Porsche Cayman GT4, and today I hope to give you a little taste of what it's like to drive this car. We're going to talk about the sights, the sounds, the feels, and yeah, the emotions. But before we fire this thing up, let's check out how I've optioned out the interior. You might remember from my last video I mentioned GT cars don't exactly come with all the options that other Porsches get. One of those is easy entry and drive. Nope, not available. Got to use the good old key fob. And then you get to stick the key in the ignition, which is kind of nostalgic, except that's not any normal key. I think the high price you pay for a GT car, a lot of it goes towards the engineering, the aerodynamics, the suspension derived from the GT3, or the 911 derived flat 6 4-liter engine. All those things, you're paying for the experience for sure, and everything else, well, it's extra. But as a driver, you're in the cockpit a lot, and I think it's important that it feels and looks nice. And since this is the first time I've ever ordered a new car, I had a chance to do the interior exactly how I wanted. And so I decked it out with the leather and Alcantara interior with deviated stitching in red. And I decided to offset that black with the anthracite brushed aluminum trim. I think it's a little darker than the standard trim. You can also get carbon fiber, leather, or even have it painted to match the exterior of the car, which is great, I'm sure, for the more sporty colors. The Alcantara is extensive, and with the stitching, it really defines all the seams in the leather and really adds depth to the whole car. Plus, the leather package adds the anthracite aluminum to the door panels as well. You'll notice that there's no Chrono package in here, no clock here. That's because the Chrono package doesn't do much for you in the GT4. It adds the nice clock, but not really much else. In other Porsches, adding the Chrono package gives you a little knob by the steering wheel for normal, sport, sport plus modes, maybe even launch control, but the GT4 is in sport, sport plus by default, and yes, the PDK already has launch control. One of my favorite options for this car are these lightweight carbon fiber bucket seats. They are just gorgeous. And not only that, they work. They really hold you in at the track. They're even spec'd out to take on a 5-point harness if you wanted. They're not really meant for every body type out there. I'm a narrow person and it just feels right. Unfortunately, with all this capability, it does have some sacrifices. Like there's no recline available and the slider is manual. The only power switch is the one for height. And plus, it requires a little bit of gymnastics to get in and out of the car. Especially if you don't want to harm these seat bolsters, which you can get some really high-end covers for. Be sure to look out for a future video where I install those and we do an interview with the man himself. Overall, the cockpit is pretty straightforward and simple, like good German design. There is not much to complain about and also nothing too fancy. There's a little bit of storage in the door pockets. The center console has storage, of course. There's a USB port in the center console, one in the glove box, and a 12-volt port in the passenger footwell. And if you opted for the free smoking package, you not only get a cigarette lighter, but you also get another 12-volt port. The cup holder design is kind of interesting. I think it's a neat design, but they do have flaws. They don't really hold very large cups, and for this one, if your cup isn't sealed, it's going to drip right on your climate control. All right, before we get rolling, let's check out the luggage space in this car. Because this is a mid-engine car, the engine is right behind the driver and passenger. And yeah, it's inside the compartment with you, but it's covered with this lid and insulated, so it's not too bad. But you do get all this trunk space here, which isn't bad at all. You can also put some things up on the engine cover. There's some tie downs available, but maybe don't put anything heavy because you don't want it flying forward when you put on those awesome brakes that this car has. And because this is a mid-engine car, there's a frunk, or in the UK, do you say fruit? Anyway, it's pretty big. You could probably fit 2 or 3 carry-on roller bags in there, and there's a toolkit that comes with the car, and then over here you have your tire sealant kit, and under here is your battery, brake fluid, and a tire air pump. All right, so we're gonna go for a little drive, and we'll cover sights, sounds, feelings, emotions. It's gonna be fun. So sitting in the car, you can't really see the nose even if you're sitting really high up, but you can see the forward quarter panels where like the headlights are, and that's really good for having a good aim. I feel pretty comfortable. I'm 5'11", and I still have the seat forward about 6 inches maybe, and I've got lots of headroom. This is a pretty good driving position. Elbow rests nice. I can grab the selector if I want, and my elbow rests nice on the left armrest. Blind spots aren't that great, but I have my mirrors set wide, as you should. You don't need to see your car, you need to see the other cars. And out the rearview mirror, I see the big spoiler. It's right there, right across the middle of my mirror. It's not that obtrusive though. I really like the gauge cluster, that big tachometer in the middle with the speed readout in digital, because, well, the little speedometer on the left side, they try to fit 200 miles per hour of notches on less than 180 degrees of dial face. So yeah, it's kind of useless for me. Plus, when you're going fast, you want to see your speed right in your face. I also like that the gear, even though you're in automatic mode, the gear is always showing, so you know what the status of the trans is. The multifunction display, of course, has all the things you'd normally want, temperatures and oil pressure. I like that. But it also has tire pressure gauges that you can switch between your summer and winter wheels, although here in California, I don't have winter wheels. But there is a track mode, and the track mode allows you to keep track of specific track tire pressures, and that's really awesome. I also like that there's a G meter. It records your last G forces since the last time you reset it. 1.51 Gs. I don't know when that happened. Otherwise, you can control a lot of your radio stations and stuff, and a lot of the car's settings are in that multifunction display, which is weird because a lot of the times it's in the nav display for the car. Speaking of the nav display, Porsche calls it the PCM, or Porsche Communications Management. And I didn't get nav in this car. It was over $2,000 option. Again, GT cars don't come with much. It doesn't really matter to me because I did opt for Apple CarPlay, and that's got all the maps I need. Without the nav display, you just don't get the Porsche connected apps and the Porsche Precision Track app, but that's okay. There's other things out there that are just as good. I also opted for the Bose stereo system. It's not that great compared to especially the Bose stereo in my Cadillac with 13 speakers, and I'm generally a fan of Bose, but no, not in this car. I can't imagine what the bass stereo sounds like. I wish I could opt for the Burmester stereo that's in the Spyder, but that's over $4,000. I don't even know if I'd get it if I could. The sound is what's important in this car. This engine is so different. There's nothing like it. Yeah, the exhaust valves are opening and closing, and it makes all these deep droney noises, good droney noises, believe me, like sounds, like I said, I've never heard before. And it's right there behind you. I think there may be less sound deadening in this car because it's pretty loud. You hear everything. You hear just all the parts turning. And the best part, of course, is when you rev it out to 8,000 RPM. Woo. This car is so much fun. But it is pretty loud in here and hard to have a conversation, especially when you're trying to play. Don't have a conversation when you play. You can put it in PDK Sport Mode, which keeps the gear always about 1 gear lower, and it never goes to 7th gear on the freeway, and it's always ready for the gear you need, especially when you get on the brakes. It's always downshifting to be ready, so as soon as you get on that throttle, it's in the right gear. I love that. And if you want to, you can pull both paddle shifters at the same time, and it will free rev. There's also the sport suspension button, which tightens up the suspension, but I save that only for pretty smooth tracks. You can also, of course, turn off the stability control and the stability control and traction control, all on their center console. With the PDK, you can go over to the left and you have manual mode. You can, of course, use the paddle shifters, but this is kind of like a sequential shifter. It's fun. Not quite as fun as a manual, but it's still fun. See how quiet it is now? Wow. Now outside the car, the exhaust definitely turns heads, and it's the stock exhaust. Imagine modifying it. People are really going to notice. I love how snugly I am in the seat. It's like I don't have to try and use my muscles to hold my body up in hard turns because these tires really grip around the turns. You could steer with your fingertips almost because the steering is just so precise, and without your body having to lean and stuff and having to hang on to the steering wheel, it just makes it easy. As for this seat, I have some pretty bad posture, so having to sit upright like this is actually rather uncomfortable for my muscles, and my legs kind of get a little pressure, almost like they're starting to fall asleep after a long drive. But that's me. I mean, some people find them pretty comfortable. Most don't, though. I love the Alcantara steering wheel. Some people don't like that, but you do have the option for leather if you don't want to get sweaty hands on Alcantara. You just gotta keep it clean. The car has also very little roll. I mean, in autocross, it stays very flat. In fact, did you know Porsche has the Guinness Book of World Record for fastest slalom, and they did it in a Porsche Spider. Now the brakes, yeah, if I had to say, they come on kind of strong in the middle when you are putting in a little extra, because maybe you're about to come up to that stoplight too fast. They almost seem a little weak there, and so you put on a little more and then they really bite down, and they absolutely have no problem getting the car stopped. I'm just saying that's how it feels. The middle is a little softer, but maybe they need to be broken in more when I take it to the track soon. Now there's a very vibrant word these days, used a lot in car reviews, and that is emotion, right? Emotion. I think it's maybe a little overused, but what does that mean? I mean, it means that, what kind of feelings does the car evoke for you? Some cars are pretty boring, and some people are boring, and they don't get feelings from cars. Sorry. But this car obviously gives you lots of emotions. Maybe it depends on who you are. It could be aggression. it could be just plain joy, as you saw me in my very first drive. Tons of joy. It's very exhilarating, right? The sound makes a huge difference. It doesn't even matter if your car is fast. The sound just, oh, yeah, it's great. The other thing is maybe a little bit of fear, because like I said, this car handles so well and you're really planted with these seats. You go do some driving and the fear comes when you look down and realize how fast you were doing what you were doing. You couldn't do it in any other car. It's nuts. It really is. But there are some emotions that I don't like. Like here on the freeway. My emotions on the freeway are not good. In fact, I get a little annoyed and pissed off. Pissed off because honestly, this car doesn't deserve to be here. It's not meant for this boring straight line stuff, and I just constantly think about how it's going to waste. I'm not kidding. So I won't take a road trip in this car. The only reason I'll drive a long way is so I can get this thing to a track or autocross or to some curvy roads. Another emotion I get in here is annoyed, because the noise kind of sucks. The tires are noisy because they're track tires. The engine is noisy. The exhaust, you know, we can tone down a little bit, but even cruising, this car is around 70 decibels. I think my Cadillac is around 60. Of course, it's got like noise cancellation in it or whatever. But even when you do get on it, it hits like 90 decibels, at least according to the Apple Watch. It's like, hey, you're in a noisy environment. Okay, all right, enough of that. As for sound on the freeway, the auto start stop function not only stops the car's engine at a stop sign when you don't turn off the switch, but it also deactivates half of the cylinders in cruise on the freeway. Some people have said it sounds like an exhaust leak. I don't agree with that. I think it's just a different tone of exhaust. It's like brrr, brrr. Here, take a listen. The other emotions I have are worry when I park the car just about anywhere, and also a little bit of self-consciousness, because people do look at the car, and I didn't buy the car for them, I bought it for me. I also have fear of driveways. The car is kind of low, so you gotta take those driveways and speed bumps carefully. So I bring the car to curvy roads like this in the hills of Northern California, because this is where it belongs, and this is where the good emotions are. Plus, there's no traffic. Let's put it back in manual mode for just a little more fun, because I do miss the manual a bit. Whoa. Curve at 20 miles an hour, 60 works. Oh, too many G's for the camera, though. Oh, I hope I didn't run over that squirrel. All right, folks, that's it. That is why you want to get this thing off the freeway, off the neighborhood streets, onto the curvy roads, on the track, at the autocross course, because that is where the best emotions are. This car is just amazing in those areas. But as a daily driver, I'm not that fond of it, and thankful that I have my Cadillac V Sport. But yeah, so that's the interior review and drive. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it and you want to see more GT4 content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified of future videos, and comment below what's your favorite thing about the GT4. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching the Jet Fuel Only channel. See you next time.